This is the most bullish day for Bitcoin and the most bearish day as well. Is it today, Friday? Actually, no. As we're going over with this new script, there are a few things to be aware of with regards to the different days for Bitcoin and what they essentially return as far as their bullish or bearish rate. And other than that, I'm going to walk you back to the Krown crypto channel. It's a nice little Friday morning over here, and I expect that we can just jump right into this one. So I'm just going to put on the chart view over here, and this is a new script, actually not made by the good man, Mr. Caretaker, although, of course, he's working on very, very important things right now. But I actually had another person make this one just because it's something that I've been looking for a while now to be automated. And what are we looking at right here in the bottom right-hand corner? We're looking at what I'm going to refer to as the Krown range stats, which just essentially gives you stats as to what days print what on average. So as you can see here for Bitcoin, I do want to go over a few things. First and foremost, as we have been going over on this channel, Thursday is certainly the least bullish, let's say, aka the most likely to see downside at 39.5%. Closing positive. So that means that you got just over 60% rate for closing, negative or bearish, if you will. I think negative is a better word in this case. And then, of course, what's the most bullish day? It's not Friday, it's not Thursday, it's not Wednesday, it's actually Tuesday. Tuesday is the one that's most likely to close to the upside, about 64.5%. As you can see, returning an average of just under spot 90%. So, when we're looking at the averages, obviously they do get, massively crunched, just because we're looking at, a lot of data. We're looking at, I believe it's 5,000 bars on this one. Maybe it's 20,000 bars. Actually, I have to ask the coder just to make sure, because I don't believe that we decided on that just yet. But it's a very good sample size, is what I'm trying to say. Actually, it wouldn't even matter if it's 20,000, because it's not even 20,000 days in Bitcoin's history as of right now. Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. I think Bitcoin has probably somewhere around 5,000, so that'd probably make more sense. All right, anyways, in this case, I do want to go over a few more things. So, today is Friday, so let's just go over what Friday typically does do. It actually is, and actually all days have a less than 50%, I'm dying, man. I'm dying. I'm dying in a good way. It's a good death, as my trainer says. Anyways, so every day basically but Tuesday has a greater probability to actually close red. In some cases, slightly. We can see that Friday is the, next best one at 47.92, which is today, actually. So it's the second most bullish day, if that really counts as bullish. And then, of course, when we look at the returns for the up closes versus the down closes on those days, we can see that Friday actually, for the not the long side, that's again the wrong word, the positive side, returning about 40%. Tuesday is actually very interesting. Despite being the most likely to close positive, it's actually, I would guess, kind of in the, I guess it's a little bit more on the lower end here at 2.18% returned, meaning that, on average price action gained about just over 2%. Again, contrast that with Friday, which is closer to 2.5%. And let's just kind of see, what if this Friday does play within the realm of those statistics, and let's say it does close the upside. What sort of a range would we be looking at? 240 would give us where? Basically just above $28,000. On the other, on the contrasting side, we do see that on average, if Friday is going to be a negative day, that it does lose about 2% or just over 2%. So what would that look like? Subtract from current price action, just below $27,000, which is kind of my trigger right now, as again on a daily closing basis, that we'd very likely see price action come back down, maybe slightly below 26, something like that. But I do want to reiterate my maybe not long term, but more medium term stance, that I'm not necessarily bearish on Bitcoin, looking for it to take out the September lows. I do think that that's probably the low. Bitcoin might come back down to low 26, maybe even mid 25, and retest those regions. But I would be looking at that as still a a base. So the real question to me is right now is, does Bitcoin do something like this and blah, 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 or does it do something like this and blah, 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 or does it just go to the green or the red? No, those are probably the least likely things to be happening. I think it's probably one of these two LARP lines right here, as you can see. Anyways, I'm going to get rid of these as of right now. And let's just go over a little bit more of this data. So yes, what else do I want to be going over with this is the real question. Yes, okay. We can see that the weekends are certainly the least volatile. Saturday, especially, actually. Saturday is probably the least eventful day for Bitcoin just in general. Technically does lose a little bit more than it gains at 43.75% positive closing rate, but on average, moves 0.07%. And you can see that the numbers right here on the bullish and bearish returns are, about almost half less or more than half less than most of the numbers else that we see elsewhere, especially during the weekdays. Sunday, a little bit more excitement, I suppose, as people kind of jockey into position for the for CME's early morning open. But ultimately, Saturday is the least important day, which is probably why we're going to go back to an indicator breakdown for Saturday. Anyways, yes, so, I kind of just let you marinate on this data over here. This indicator or this script will be available. I'm not exactly sure when, to be honest with you, but relatively soon. We don't have to wait for it that long. Anyways, on to some more statistics over here. Let's go back to the HPDR ranges. We can see that the 50% of historic returns range low has now shifted. So we've seen the box shift for the 50% range, now showing basically 27,000. Or I think that we also saw that, yeah, we did see this yesterday as well, actually. Top side of the current range is basically the highs of this week at about 28.3, 28, or more like 28.4 in this case. And ultimately, it kind of plays into what we were saying yesterday. It's like Bitcoin's probably in the short term more likely to come back down somewhere around low 27. Kind of looks like it's doing that right now. And then the real question is, does 27 hold or not? If 27 does give way, I would be looking for Bitcoin to come down to at least low 26s. Maybe there's bounce along the way. That's fine. But low 26s to, mid 25.5 region, somewhere around there. I'll kind of highlight it right here. Then we can go through stochastic momentum and see where the pivots currently are. Although seeing as Bitcoin is, once again doing the sideways snake dance of fucking boredom, probably not much to be going over there, or at least not much to be trusting there. Anyways, yeah. Okay. And then obviously the very obvious point of continuation here is, basically back above that 28.4 region. At that point, Bitcoin very likely headed towards at least 29 and more likely 30. In fact, very, very much more likely 30 overall. Anyways, long term still for Bitcoin, I do, like I said, err to the upside based off of many of the things that we've spoken about in the past, in the past couple weeks, past few weeks really, especially with the seasonal data for Q4. But going over the bi-weekly stochastic momentum, which is going to be closing this Friday, which CME obviously closes like today, then we can see that, this one's going to continue to the downside, obviously. But I do look at this as still kind of a more of a long-term corrective signature. You can see just back to, and it hasn't been great actually throughout the history of Bitcoin. Going over to the weekly, stochastic momentum should very likely remain to the upside, assuming that Bitcoin can hold 26,000, so not 27, but 26,000 bucks. So again, I still look at that as a generally good thing, especially alongside extreme lows and volatility. It just puts the probabilities in favor of, major upside expansion if and when, Bitcoin gets moving. Momentum also to the upside, volatility low, more likely to move in that direction. 5-day time frame. Is this one closing for CME? No, it just closed last night actually, or a couple nights ago. Still 26,000 bucks pivot. 2-day time frame is going to be showing 26,250 pivot or so. Again, same signature here with extreme lows on volatility. So I do look at that as extreme. What the fuck is going over here? Oh, just damn messages on Discord. But again, same thing as kind of like the 5-day and the weekly. It's like, when you see volatility that low and momentum is pointed to the upside on kind of all these higher term timeframes, the probabilities are in favor of long-term upside. That is long-term, not short-term or medium-term. That doesn't mean Bitcoin can't come back down in the more short or medium term. I really don't have strong opinions about that. Kind of a little bit more angled towards the downside in the short term, to be fair. Daily time frame will actually turn down here below 28,400. So basically, Bitcoin fails to reclaim this week's high by today's closure. Yep, momentum once again is turned on to the downside on the daily. 12-hour time frame also going to be down below 27.7, which CME is trading about $100 below as of right now. 6-hour time frame is going to be showing also downside below 27,750, so we can see multiple numbers coming around that region. And 4-hour time frame showing $28,000, also downside. And hourly is going to be flippy floppy to the up. Above 27.5. It's really, not getting too much from this realistically. If I had to call, I do think short term it probably does trade a little bit sideways and down, and then the higher term timeframes likely take on over after a corrective move. I want to put all this analysis in conjunction with, of course, the Dixie chart. We identified that there's a likely reversal coming in there. Based off of, what's happened this week after what will very likely be 12 straight weeks to the upside, which is the most we've ever seen Dixie move to the upside in its history. And also hitting the same, region, the same rejective regions that you saw in November of 2022, a pretty important, time frame. I mean, that was when traditional markets and Bitcoin was putting in, what are the macro lows currently, and getting rejected there on the first try, which is, quite likely. So I would be looking for a pullback on this. Also, daily bearish divergence plus daily jewel both pointed to the downside now. I got some very interesting messages yesterday or comments yesterday saying that you can't use the RSI. You can't use the RSI on Dixie. It's like, really? Then why does it work? Why does it fucking work? It's like these sort of things are just... They're my favorite things to talk down to, because just with the smallest amount of research, you can disprove that. Like, for fuck's sake, what happened right here? What happened right here? What happened right here? What happened right here? I mean, you can ignore the evidence in front of your face, or you can just stick to whatever narrative, fulfills your weirdest price action desires, whether they be upside or downside. And, I always like to pick on both sides there, because, I mean, they're equally as silly. Being a fucking perma bull or perma bear, whenever I read these messages, I always go through the person's like comment history as well, just because I'm fucking bored, really. And they're the same people that were either calling for 100,000, a couple years ago, or they're calling for like 10,000, 12,000, in the last year. It's the same people. So whenever I see these sort of things, it's very, very interesting. But yeah, there you go. In this case, not only are we going to see rejection right there, but we're also going to see stochastic momentum turn down, very likely, not just on the daily, which is already down, but on the weekly as well. So the weekly will turn down today, assuming that it does close here or lower, basically anywhere below 106.65. Daily is going to continue down very likely below 106.58, which currently trading about 8 cents, 9 cents below that region. So, there's going to be some ebbs and flows, obviously. It's not going to be straight down, but it is ready for a correction, it does look like to me. Can very easily come back down to, 105, something like that. Wouldn't be out of the question at all, or, somewhere between like 104 and 105 would be completely fair game. And to be fair, long term would still be bullish. Now, does this matter for Bitcoin? I don't fucking know. Hasn't really been correlated to it as of recent times, nor has traditional markets in Bitcoin. So maybe this is all just a distraction, as it typically is. As always, it's best to be looking at the asset that you intend to be trading, not other things. Because price action is fucking king, and statistics are the king of kings. And with that said, I will leave that to there. I'm going to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow for the most boring day, statistically speaking, Saturday.